It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 176 for the second part of our three-part E3 thing. It's day 2, I guess, depending on who you talk to. It's day 4 for some other people, and maybe it's the Summer Games Fest or something. It doesn't matter. Today we're going to talk about Microsoft, and I guess Activision Blizzard's in there a little bit. Warner Brothers potentially is in there. There's a bit of Square Enix from a different press conference. Bethesda obviously is part of the Xbox press conference now. Anyway, I'm Steve from Stevivor.
I'm Ben from Stevivor, and with us today we also have
Kosta from AusGamers, friend of the site.
Friend of the site. It's an actual friendly fire. It's an actual friendly fire show. We started this when it was like MMGN and Stevivor, and then that, stuff happened. We won't get into that. That's fine. But now it's back to like 2 Australian video game outlets. We're friends and on Metacritic and blah, blah, blah. Shooting that. Am I swearing? We swear all the time. Shooting the shit. Why am I so weird about it today? Let's have a lovely, candid chat after probably being awake for about 12 hours already today.
Let's get loopy.
Terrifying. We're going to start with the Microsoft or Xbox and Bethesda E3 showcase, or whatever you want to call it. And I thought we'd kind of just start generally first with impressions, your thought of it all, blah, blah, blah. Someone save me before I just trail off into oblivion.
Okay. I thought it was great. So I probably watched the last 10 to 12 Xbox press conferences at E3, and it would be up there as the best in terms of their format, what they were trying to do. They finally got the games right that Nintendo and PlayStation have done for so long. And yeah, they kind of set this up. They had that press briefing a few days ago where they talked to us about the gaming cloud and that's their future. They didn't talk about that at all, so they could just show us all these games. What did you guys think of it?
I thought it was breathless, which was good. Like the first, because it was so late for us. I mean, you're excited before it begins because, just watching a countdown is exciting just in general. And Xbox always bring spectacle. And this one just kind of went trailer. And each one was either a console exclusive, was coming to Game Pass, or was some sort of first look or new look at some sort of big game. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. The only thing that was weird was that it didn't, Phil Spencer didn't pop up until the very end, which was weird.
Yeah.
I thought.
The thing that I liked about it that I noticed is, especially, I don't know how long, 5-6 years, there's always that segment in the middle where it's like, here's the ID at Xbox games and they're charming indies, but we'll give them 2 seconds each and there's a montage of 50 and boom. And there were definitely games as part of this press conference that I would consider an ID at Xbox game, but they had just as much time to present their game and breathe alongside, like the Starfields and the Elder Scrolls Onlines of the show, which was really nice. And it was just, it wasn't like, oh, that looks really cool, but it's gone by so quickly you completely forget what it was and what it's about. 12 minutes is a really good example of that. I've just been enamored with that game since I've heard about it, and it just had a little moment to shine, which is good. And it's coming out soon too, which is even better.
Yeah, well, that was their focus, right? They were kind of, here's the stuff for the next 18 months. They didn't want to go beyond that. There was so much we didn't see. They did 90 minutes without Perfect Dark, without Fable, without Avowed, without Everwild. Stuff which we know about, and there was no the Banjo-Kazooie that I want, which has not been announced. But yeah, so they clearly want to focus on here's stuff for the next 12 to 18 months. They said we've got 30 games to show, 27 of those are on Games Pass. So, and that's within the next 18 months, more or less. I didn't see too many which is not coming in 22 or before.
Yeah, there was a lot of 2022, and I think with the pandemic and stuff, that kind of just blew every release date out by a year. I think a lot of these would have been 2021, or at least a big chunk of them would have been hey, this is the second year or the first full year of the Series X. But I mean, even so, it's just next year is just going to be so stacked with games.
And we were so convinced, Ben and I, at least, we were talking the other day, that we were convinced that Phil was going to pop up on screen the very first thing and just jump straight into Halo and be like, look, guys, it's okay. Don't worry. It's not crap. It was worth the delay. And I'm surprised they didn't. I'm also kind of impressed that they just led with Starfield and this is our new shining, Bethesda. We love them. Pat on the head. Come in. Look how cool this is. And it looked really good. We'll talk about that in a second. But then they ended up doing that with Halo anyway. So it's not like it had to be at the start. Halo came on and it was oh, Okay, good. Oh, geez.
It hasn't
Yeah.
been cancelled. Not that it ever was going to be, but yeah.
Should we
Halo
start?
was a weird one because I was expecting like a big chunk of like unedited gameplay, but instead the focus seemed to be primarily on the multiplayer stuff, which was
Yeah.
cool. But I guess we didn't get that sort of like deep dive for Halo, which was a little bit strange considering that they kind of need to not prove, but they need to kind of like um, redeem sort of like last year's presentation in a way.
I thought we'd
Yeah.
see an updated Craig the Brute, at least, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah, as even just as a joke,
know-
just to say like, here, this is what it looks like now.
But we
They were
saw
clearly going to show us the multiplayer. Like that was their whole thing. Here's the multiplayer reveal. But I agree. Like, why didn't they show any single player when that's what they were panned for last year? To then say, here's a cinematic trailer with a small little bit of story, and a lot of people just making jokes of like, oh, Master Chief had Cortana deleted. How do I delete it from my Windows? Like I've seen that joke 50 times on Twitter already. But yeah, it's weird. They showed, actual gameplay last year of the campaign, and then they didn't. And it's almost like two games, right? You've got the free-to-play multiplayer, then the paid or Game Pass campaign, and they seem to have been like, look, we've got multiplayer, and I guess they'll show us the rest later. And then no release date. Like everything else for this year was a clear date, and this one it was leaked, I think, Steve, and they backtracked straight away to say no, it's not November.
well, I
So it's
reckon
December then.
I reckon Xbox Brazil stuffed up because they put a tweet up with a date, but it was the same date as Forza Horizon 5, and there's no way they're going to
Okay.
release both
Yep.
games at the same
Okay.
time. So I think they just stuffed it up. We're talking about Halo now. Are they doing like a Resident Evil 4 in that like they showed up, except they're doing it and they're giving us notice. They're not just dropping it when the game comes out. Like it's, oh, this is Cortana. Oh, no, it's not Cortana. She's dealt with. Don't worry. That whole like, 2 games where she was going to be the bad guy. Like, no. She's gone. It's fine. Cortana has pants now. Her name's not Cortana. It's like Photana or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Cortana. Anyway, like, is that what they're actually, is it really just going to be like rebooted Halo to the point where they're just like, hey, yeah, no, it's cool. Don't worry about it. It's look over here instead. It's multiplayer. I don't know if I care or not, but it's a point.
I don't know. Halo's a weird one. Like, I'm not the biggest Halo fan. Like, I love the Xbox platform, from the 360, but Halo has never been like the reason that I, would get an Xbox. Like, sure, it's there, but like, it's never been the number one reason. And this one, I guess, like, I'm just like, I need to see that sort of like something to be like, okay, I want to play the single player. And they didn't really do that, although. I'm sure like the multiplayer looked fun, but like that's never been something that I've been a huge fan of.
Do you think
Yeah, the multiplayer lost me after 3. So like I played heaps of Halo 3 multiplayer and then never again. Like it was a big deal in 2007 when that came out. There was no other game like this to that degree on Xbox 360. And then it was just another shooter. So this year, as we said yesterday, Steve, with Battlefield, like, well, I don't know what COD's doing, but there's a gap in the market there because they're not showing anything. So maybe that's why they're pushing it, especially being free to play. Like they're essentially going up against Warzone and Apex. Like it's a different time for Halo, and it's time for try to get that audience back.
I've had a really good time in the Master Chief Collection multiplayer to the point where like I almost jumped back into Halo 5 Guardians multiplayer because Halo 5 wasn't great, but the multiplayer wasn't bad either. But it looks like that they're pushing more back towards like old school, like retro Halo, but with like a fancy new 4K gloss over it, which is fine.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, definitely.
But we don't have to talk about that anymore if you guys don't want to.
But like Battlefield's doing the same thing. Like, how cool does Battlefield 2042 look in it's going to that, I mean, kind of like Battlefield 3 for modern day, but the scale is just ramped up. And if Halo's doing that sort of like old school Halo, but bigger and just way more like, impressive in terms of the animation, the player counts, this and that. And if that's what they're doing, then yeah, like that's probably a very smart move, and making it free to play too. But they didn't really explain that, although there is a deep dive or something about, I haven't really read everything, so they probably have explained exactly how it works.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you can always go and play the Final Fantasy Battle Royale, which was announced today, and I don't know the name of it, and it might be a mobile game for all I know. So there's no shortage of multiplayer games, free multiplayer games, paid multiplayer games that you can play. Anyway, something that isn't a multiplayer game which I would like to talk about maybe next, is Stalker 2. And I don't know the subtitle of the name, but I'm sure Kosta does. Or, oh, sorry, I put him on the spot. Maybe
Yeah,
Kosta doesn't.
because they just announced the subtitle, so I just have to scroll and go, Heart of Chernobyl. There we go. Now this is a weird one, like because Stalker the original is like a classic PC game. It was
Right.
came out like well over a decade ago, and it was kind of like talked about in the same sort of league as like Half-Life, the original Half-Life. So it was this very, very PC FPS, and it was set in the exclusion zone, and it had all these weird sci-fi elements, survival, and it was Metro Exodus, 10 years plus before Metro Exodus in a way. And so this sequel, Stalker 2, was originally, I think, announced in 2012 or 13. And it's been in development for probably longer than like Star Citizen. So getting to see actual gameplay is not only surprising, but like what? So this is actually is happening. And then also that it's actually coming out April next year. And it's coming to PC and Xbox exclusively. I think that it's a console exclusive, and it's coming to Game Pass on day one as well. So it's like this mythical PC game that actually looks pretty cool. It's. I think people underestimate like how like popular Stalker is.
It sounds like it met your expectations.
Yeah,
maybe. Yes, good.
I underestimated it.
Yeah, I love like that sort of like aesthetic. Like Metro Exodus, like is such a great game to me. But that's sort of like not just post-apocalyptic, but just like Chernobyl style of just where it just feels real and dangerous.
Yeah. And is that one of the ones? So quite a few of these games are Xbox One and Series.
No, this is.
I don't think
only.
it is. Yeah, which is good. I'm like, I would almost have been happier if all of the games announced were just Xbox Series X. Like, I know, you can scale your game up and down, and it's not so much of a big deal. But like, let's, like, just cut the cord. Let's go.
Yeah, there's more than I thought. Actually, I thought it were going to be pretty much all cross-gen, but most of them were Series X and S only. I don't think there were that many, especially for like the Game Pass day one games. Like obviously your Far Cry, your Battlefield, and what was the third one that wasn't the Game Pass game? Diablo, maybe. They were the ones that were all cross-gen, and a lot of the others were current gen only. So better than I thought it was going to be.
That's it is interesting. I mean, maybe they're just not saying Xbox One anymore.
Yeah, maybe
because they've got Series S and Series X. That's not complicated.
Yeah. Well, but they were on some of them, and then the other, I guess, thing is like Ben and I were doing the news this morning together, and like we have our little like I have my little cheat tag like notepad thing up with the tags that like most are going to be on most every story, like Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Xbox. And then I'm like, I guess we have to add like cloud gaming to our tag list here, because
I refuse to add like things like Stadia and like any sort of like one that's like services that aren't in Australia. It's like forget it, or even just out of blip. It's like it's coming to PC, Stadia, this, that. It's like relax.
Luma, xCloud.
Yeah, it's coming to a couple of things that we care about. The rest, whatever.
Well, I like that. Well, not that we have it, but I guess that was sort of E3 news. Like we're getting it confirmed this year. That's what my old mate Phil and his buddy Satya said. And I get like, what's the other quick thing recap of that? It's coming to TVs through like in-app TV things like Netflix is. It's coming to browsers, so that means iPhone and everything else that has a browser. It's coming to your PC, and you can start streaming a game if you buy it. Instead of waiting for the whole thing to download. That's a pretty good summary of what that like pre-E3 announcement set was. Anything you guys want to talk about that I've forgotten about from it? I think that was it.
It's basically it. So long as you have a decent connection and not fiber to the node, you can stream games now, is pretty much their pitch. So
we struggle with a Zoom call sometimes. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's why in Australia it's always like streaming. It's like, it all sounds cool, but it all just sounds futuristic still. But I mean, it's coming. Well, we're getting the best version of it too. So when it officially launches later this year, all that stuff will be here or around the corner.
Yeah.
Just having it on your Xbox is interesting because you'll be able to go browsing through Game Pass and just firing up a game. So instead of having to download 50 gigs or even making room or whatever it is, you can spend an evening potentially just going through and just checking out a bunch of games like that aren't even installed. That's pretty, like, like if it happens seamlessly, it'll be like a magic trick, really. And we'll get so used to it and spoiled, like with everything else.
I was playing, like, I was like, it's not a very good selection on, and it's like, so I don't have an Android phone, but I have an Android emulator in BlueStacks on my computer. So I was, just like playing around and playing like Resident Evil 7 on BlueStacks via xCloud preview program, which was really cool. But also, like, I've completely finished that game, all the achievements. Like, I don't really want to play it, so it was kind of the novelty of like, ooh, and then like, all right. If it was something new, like it was on Game Pass that day that had just come out, like, yeah, cool, that would be awesome.
It's probably not for you, the person with 2 Xbox Series X's and like a gaming PC. Like, they're probably going for the people without that stuff.
But what if I want to play from my couch?
Yeah, but that's why, like, the idea of being able to like stream the game before you download it is exciting to me, is because I've got the gaming PC, I've got the Xbox. Like, I don't need to be playing it on my phone. Or like, or a tablet at home. Like, I've already got this stuff.
Me a year ago without NBN would have loved that idea. But then I get like, like if I wanted to play a new game, it was basically like turn it on in the evening, go to bed, and then like my crappy, like, 12 down internet would have the game ready for me basically the next morning. But like, if you have that, if your internet's that bad, that isn't going to help you. You're not going to be able to suddenly stream the game as you're downloading it as well. Like, so you're still up the same.
Yeah.
Shit creek. But anyway, NBN, it's getting better. And I just sidetracked us completely. We haven't done a big Bethesda game yet. So which one do you want to talk about first? The first one?
The biggest.
That opened the game, or the last one that ended the game? Bethesda?
No, you do Starfield, because that's pretty much was the question going in.
Yeah.
And is the question coming out?
Well, there were 2 questions and they were both answered. What were those questions, Steve?
Is it an Xbox exclusive? Is that the first question?
Yeah. And when is it coming out?
When is it coming out? Bam. You know what the people want to know.
Was the third question, are they going to use their same shitty engine? Because I thought they were going to use their same shitty engine.
No, calling it a shitty engine. It's very disrespectful.
I was playing Fallout 76.
It's a janky as fuck engine.
Yes. Well, now it's Creation Engine 2, which still kind of looks
very similar.
Yeah.
It's more detailed. Like, I mean, it's hard to tell, but like that teaser was apparently like the text at the start. You always got to keep an eye out for the text to let you know what is this that I'm looking at. And it said in-game, like pre-alpha footage or something like that. So it is running. What we saw was running on the Creation Engine 2, and it looks more detailed than Fallout 4, that's for sure.
The environments look amazing. The ship looked amazing. The person still looks like a little bit like kind of dead-eyed, like Fallout NPC. Yeah. So like I noticed that when I watched it the second time getting ready for this. I'm like,
but they didn't really show like the character faces like in too much detail, maybe because they know it's like, all right, we still got to work on that.
I'm just looking for something to hate, I guess. But like this is completely up my alley. It's like space. It's like like if it was comedic in any way, it'd be way too close to the Outer Worlds, and that would be weird because Microsoft
this
has
looks
that too.
Really serious.
Yeah, but I'm down for that. It looks good. Sorry, Ben, I keep cutting you off. I think. Or I keep cutting you.
No, that's fine.
No.
Now that you talk Outer Worlds, the 2 trailers together, the Outer Worlds was like taking the piss of exactly what Starfield did. Like its whole, setting the scene. Now there's going to be a drop, and we don't actually have anything to show you, so we're just going to show you the side of the face. Like that's exactly what Starfield did. Like anyway, I like what Outer Worlds did, and their point
the Outer
was
Worlds
pretty much.
Was hilarious because they had nothing to show, but then they created like an elaborate CG trailer. And then just took the piss out of it.
But it was still better than like you'd get it like almost even like a Starfield announced back in the day, and it, to the same extent Elder Scrolls 6. Like we don't need like this 20-minute movie like with people going, oh, it's been a long trek and it's been a great road and our culture, and then like a logo at the end. At least make it funny, which I'm glad they did.
Supposed to stay on Starfield briefly.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you guys think at any point it was going to go to PlayStation? Like it was obvious, right? This is going to be an Xbox and cloud and PC. Like I don't know why people thought there was going to be anything else.
I think Deathloop, and what was the other Bethesda game that's PS
Ghostwire
PlayStation?
Tokyo.
Ghostwire, yeah. That set the precedent. Like as soon as Microsoft bought Bethesda, it's like, while timed exclusives have already been established with Sony willing to pay third parties like Bethesda money to have them exclusive. So you're buying the studios for 7 billion. Like, what are you, an idiot? Like, like, what? Like, I mean, but it's not even that. Like, it's like, okay, there's more PlayStations out there, fine, but it's PC and Xbox. It's an ecosystem that covers, so many people. And to be honest, like, there is many Elder Scrolls fans on PC as there are on console.
Yeah.
I think. Or
There's
you feel,
more. There's more PlayStations out there, but there's more Xboxes that are going to be out there because you probably have to buy an Xbox if you want to play Elder Scrolls 6 on a console. Let's be honest, that's going to be exclusive too. And I would be amazed if it wasn't, because why? Like Minecraft, I guess, is like a completely different scenario. Like it makes sense for it to be on everything under the sun. Like they spent a lot of money on Bethesda. They have Deathloop and they have Ghostwire Tokyo on PlayStation for a bit, and it'll come straight to Xbox as soon as it can. And they also went, oh, by the way, Arcane, they're making another game just for us, so don't worry about that. Like we've got Xbox covered, thanks very much. And they should do that. Like I don't know why they have to play nice, or why people are getting mad at Xbox for doing this. Like they bought Bethesda, it's theirs, do it.
Yeah, it's like you don't expect Insomniac games to pop up on Series X, so why would it be? I mean, it's just like, it's the shock of it being such a big thing, like being Bethesda, and like, it's crazy. Like it's hard to even still kind of think of Doom as a Xbox franchise, because that's kind of what it is now, weirdly.
Yeah.
And speaking of Doom, it's getting its big next gen patch very, very soon too, with ray tracing, the works, 4K 60. Ooh, yeah.
And since we're doing that, Elder Scrolls Online is also doing the same thing. But that's like as much as I want to say about that. We don't know anything apart from like what we've talked about with Starfield. We know nothing else about Starfield yet. Like it comes out in a year and a half, and I guess we have a year and a half for gameplay reveals and stuff.
Being the sleuth that I am, the teaser trailer says, create any character you want. So that tells us quite a bit.
Ooh.
But no, it's this bit, yeah. It's explore with unparalleled freedom as you embark on an epic journey to answer humanity's greatest mystery. So, like, with the serious tone, like, I mean, we don't really know what it's about, but that kind of tells me that you can, like, obviously there has to be a story there, but you can pretty much explore the galaxy, and almost in a way that it feels like Mass Effect, but like the first contact period of Mass Effect,
but with
that we never actually played. Yeah.
And
so I'm thinking like
bubble
we're going to
discover
like alien races and all sorts of craziness, but I don't know. It's hard to, how do you imagine what, like a Bethesda style city or town is in Starfield?
In space.
Yeah.
With like the 10 people that live in the entire village, because that's as much as they could probably like get on the screen, because their engine would fall apart, because it's janky, not shit. Janky.
Right.
There you go. Janky. An engine that's not janky in a game that's not janky or shit, a franchise rather, is Forza Horizon, and we're getting Forza Horizon 5 in Mexico. And it was, I thought we'd see a Horizon anyway, but we didn't see anything about Forza Motorsport. We get instead Playground.
No.
This new game coming out in November 9th.
Not only that, but it looks proper next gen, I think, for the first time for Xbox Series X. Like that opening of like showing the environments and then photogrammetry. It's like Flight Simulator, when that first got shown, like it's like, what the hell, like how is this real? And then you see the car driving around, and then it's like cut to 60 frames per second gameplay, and then it's like cut to it's coming out in November. You're like, what? Where did this game come from? And it just, that easily game of the show in terms of wow, it just looks amazing.
And like they did all the photogrammetry and stuff for Australia with 3, but like you can see how much the technology has evolved. And like as soon as I started talking about all that, that's like immediately where my brain went to, Kosta. Like we know what they've done with Azure and the cloud and Flight Simulator with weather patterns and blah 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 blah. Like it's neat to see all this kind of come together, and like it's nice to know about, but probably 90% of the people playing this game are going to take all of that for granted. And as well they should. Like, it's a racing game. You don't need to be so impressed by this, but I'm very impressed by this.
I think
well, the last two are super impressive.
Yeah.
So it's not like super new. Like, we've seen that come along. And when you go see them in E3, there was like, look at the rain droplets on the ground for 20 minutes. Like, we're not missing anything, not doing it behind closed doors for this, because that's what they would do with the look at the lighting through the trees. That's what they want to show you because they're so proud of it. But when you play it, it just all goes into the background because it's so fun and it's just kind of blows together and looks great. And I think you're right, Costa. It's the first kind of, well, maybe after Flight Simulator, since we've got a date for that too, kind of current gen game that looks like it's made for these consoles. So yeah, I think it's the game that will sell Game Pass more than anything this year, at least.
Yeah, and the Series X too, I think. You see, if you walked into a JB and you saw that running on like a 4K TV and you have a passing interest in Forza or, gaming, you'd be like, oh, what is this? That's a head turner. Like, it just looks stunning. And Playground are so talented. It's ridiculous. Like, just imagine what they're going to do with Fable if they can make a Forza game look like that. It's like,
well, it's kind of amazing they've made this. I know they have their two teams going, but they've made like Fable looks pretty far along too, and they've made this together. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it did. So
surely you're gonna have an option to put it into 120 frames. Surely. They didn't say, did they? Surely they would though. Surely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say surely 15 more times.
Just lower the resolution. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. I didn't get the whole thing with 120 frames. I think it's more of a selling point.
Yeah, but I just like the option. You might as well.
Yeah, but you don't need it. I mean, 60 is fine.
I would use. I'd put.
Like, we're coming from the days of like playing games in the 20s or sub 30. It's like now you're just getting greedy. It's like you got 60, and then I'm like, hey, but there's an option for 20. And you're like, oh no, I want 120. Soon you're gonna be wanting more. Just slow down.
All right. I'm sorry. Well, something that it isn't for, well, it probably is outputting in 4K, but it's not flashy bells and whistles, looks flashy great, but it actually still, what am I trying to say? It still looks really good, but it's replaced. It's like a 2.5D sci-fi adventure game that is very, it's a very different look than a Forza Horizon as an example, but I'm probably as equally as excited about that game as I am for Horizon, which is strange. And like, this just came out of left field, and it's one of those lovely like ID at Xbox kind of games that you get to get excited about something that you've not seen before. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, replaced is like all aesthetic. Like, if you love pixel art, if you love that sort of like neon sci-fi retro future sort of look, it was kind of like, remember that, what was that game from like a couple of years ago that disappeared? The cyberpunk looking side-scrolling one at the Xbox showcase that everybody was like, wow, look at this, and then just disappeared.
I don't even remember what it is. So
this is a side-scrolling one.
Anything about it. It wasn't
Tunic,
was it?
Yeah. It was like the last something, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, this is as impressive.
Well, this is the new one of those. Yeah, we won't forget about it. It's coming out soon-ish.
But this one also has that animation that's like, Prince of Persia, Another World, like really highly detailed rotoscope style animation that just looks so cool.
Yes. I think I said Blade Runner like in my first sentence writing about it this morning, which I like regret, but it was also 5 a.m. So like, whatever. I use Blade Runner too. It's like, why not? But I get like, yeah, that's an instant selling point. And it's one of those ones where we sort of like, I don't know, everything's a blur to me right now, to be honest, but it's I don't know if we saw a lot of it, but it just looked captivating from what I saw. Side scrolling, neat animations, just a really unique look, which like obviously has influences in all the stuff that we've just talked about, but still looks pretty good to me.
Yeah. There was kind of that, and 12 minutes, was that what that game was called, or was it a longer title than that? But it was like a 12-second trailer.
Yeah. Well, the game goes for 12 minutes.
Showed you almost nothing.
How much can they show?
Yeah. But it showed enough. That was a great example of like a really quick snapshot to kind of say narrative story, man stuck in a time loop, Daisy Ridley, 2 other celebrities who are forgotten.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Willem Dafoe and someone else. Yeah. But like they've done the same thing
else.
Every single time they showed it in July 2019 and last year as well. So like they've been showing it for a couple of years, but like every time I see it, I'm just like, oh yes, I want this. And people always give props to Devolver for having all these cool, edgy like experimental kind of games. And like, yes, they should get some credit, but like Annapurna Interactive, to me, like lately has just been like hitting it out of the park. And this is another one of their games which is doing that too. And on Game Pass, like most of these games, like 27 of 30 games that they talked about today on Game Pass.
Yeah, that one looked cool. I mean, that's the sort of, and it was good that they gave it like a full like 2-minute plus trailer, and it wasn't just like 10 seconds. We go, oh, what's that? Like in the usual montage, like you said earlier. Although I do love the indie montages that they used to do.
Yeah.
Well, they're so quick. And the like comparing that 12 minutes to Tina Turner's Wonderland. I did it again. Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Tina Turner's Wonderland would be a pretty good game.
That's a very different game.
Like, I'm not excited about it to begin with, but like they made such a big deal out of the people that are in it, and I forget every single person now. God, Andy Samberg's in it. Someone else. And it was like famous people, and like this is Willem Dafoe and Daisy Ridley and that third person that we keep forgetting. Sorry, third person. But like it's like a footnote. It's just kind of like interesting on the side of it, and the game is speaking for itself, and that's just kind of like an extra bonus, which I think is cool.
Yeah. The indie studio who was clearly most into E3, I'm going to say, is whoever made Shredders, because they replied to your tweet. They replied to every publication's like news story. So they got their social media interns just to scour Twitter, basically, which is kind of fun. They're kind of like, yeah, our game got promoted. We're going to reply to everyone.
That one came out of nowhere too. That one looked, it's like, I mean, that's like amped. Like even going back to like 1080 snowboarding from the N64, it's the snowboarding games are just, they always have, passionate fans. It's kind of like, whenever there's a mention of Skate or whatever, people are going to go crazy. And because this looked good, and I didn't even know it existed before that, I was like, what is this? And it's like cool music, snowboarding, very cool. Yeah, and visually it looked good too. Yeah.
Well, and
it was in game. They made a pretty big point to say we haven't faked this trailer; it's all in game. And I did like at the end when they said we're hopeful of December. Like they didn't say coming December; it said like in quotations, we're pretty hopeful, something like that, of December, which is fair with how everything's going at the moment.
They seem pretty earnest, the people behind it, which is nice. And like I'm sure like they weren't just going. Well, I just activated my phone assistant with that phrase. I don't know how that quite worked. Like, yes, they were probably going and looking at replies and their press and stuff, but I think they were genuinely excited about it. And I can't imagine how excited they would have been, because our mate Philly Cheesesteak, Phil Spencer, like he didn't because he was just tweeting probably like a half an hour ago. So he must have like finished his debriefs and just got to look at how things went. And that was one of the few games that he actually talked about. He's like, I'm just really excited. I love a good snowboard. I love the feeling of it. And this just looks really, really cool. So that must have been like, they must be pleased as punch to have the head of Xbox talking about their game like that. He also talked about, because Rod Ferguson is now at Diablo with Activision Blizzard. And
Diablo 2 Ibarra is also there as well. Like there's a couple of big Xbox people that are there, and then just weirdly just slip in a Diablo 2 trailer.
Well, and it's coming out to like everything under the sun, like Switch and everything. It's not a Game Pass game, but it was cool to see. And like I feel like that's one of your wheelhouse games, Costa, or you're a Blizzard person anyway. I'm not a Diablo person really, but like what did you think of it? Because we're stupid.
I know so much about this game that it's a little silly. So Diablo 2 from 2000, and when they announced this remaster, they said that they were going to remake all 27 cinematics. 27 minutes of cinematics using the Blizzard, animation team that just do
the coolest looking stuff ever.
Like it's if not the best, it's right up there, like their animation team. And so this trailer opened with our first look at some of the remastered cinematics, and it looked like on par with Diablo 4. So like for the first second, you're like, is this Diablo 4? And you're like, wait, no, the characters look a little different. But I've played the alpha on PC, and basically what it is the same game from 20 years ago, but you press one button and then you get a remake visuals, that sits on top of a 2D layer. Fans are going nuts for it. It's coming out. So, got a release date September 20 something. It's going to be 4K 60 on the Series X. It'll be the same on PC and a few other platforms, but it's also Xbox One. It's also Switch. there's cross-gen, so you can take your characters to any other platform. But they didn't say crossplay. That was the one thing that I was hoping that they would just announce in this trailer as well, would be release date, but then also crossplay. But I think crossplay with something like that would be such a massive thing to even wrangle at this point, because there could very well be crossplay between. I think at the very least, we'll have crossplay between Xbox and PC. I think, but like if you're trying to add Switch and PlayStation into the mix, there's a lot of like legal documents to sign, or whoever,
payments to potentially be
Yeah.
making to some publishers.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's cool. That's gonna
I
be one
love
of the
it.
big games of the year, hands down.
For Costa. I love a good game that has like the old new overlay. Like I don't know. To me, like I probably first became aware of it with like the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition. Like I just love that. Every game that can do that should do that, because it's just fun to just jump back and forth and like everything. If they can do it with the music and the visuals, cool experience. Especially if you're like a diehard fan, it's like a really nice like.
This is like the Halo 2
trip.
one, like the Halo 2 in the Master Chief Collection, like because
it
changed
with like the updated
the cinematics, and then it also changed like all the audio and all the visuals, and the all the like environments looked so much more detailed. This is kind of like very similar to when you go back and forth, like you lose like that surround sound. It just sounds like, I mean, it's not mono, but like you just
like MIDI file almost.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my list of stuff to talk about. So
much.
I don't know. Talk about what's Party Animals is on PC right now. It looks really, really fun, and it's coming to Xbox next year. I think that was worth a mention because it just looks fun and like
just I think you've covered
joyous.
it there. That's a sizzle rule. That's it.
All right. Age of Empires 4. I don't know if you're a Age of Empires player, Costa. Probably.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to talk about Age of Empires 4?
Yeah. So Age of Empires 4, like October release date, is really cool. That is being developed by Relic, who are RTS kind of like gurus. They did Company of Heroes 1 and 2. They did the very first Halo Wars, I think.
Yeah.
I think Relic did the first one. Yeah. And so their pedigree is pretty much set in stone when it comes to RTS. And from the original reveal from earlier this year, Age of Empires 4 looks awesome. And it's going to be one of those sort of like, I mean, you don't want to use the term games as a service. It's going to be like a platform. So they're going to, because the way they're doing the history, so like the trailer that you saw there with all that documentary footage, isn't them just doing stock footage. That's how they're telling the narrative in the game. So if you're doing the Joan of Arc campaign, they basically collaborated with, those documentarians that do stuff for like History Channel and BBC Films and things like that. So it actually presents, documentary footage, and they went, they did location scouting, and then, there'll be transitions from that to the period, and then you playing. Like the way they described it is really cool, and this kind of trailer shows glimpses of that alongside the release date. So if you are an RTS fan, and to be honest, there's so many Age of Empires fans. Age of Empires 2, which we're looking at 1990s, I think was when it first came out. I'm pretty sure. That's still one of the most played games on PC.
Oh, wow. I think the last Age of Empires I played was when you bought like a Kellogg cereal and it came in the box. Like,
It's probably Age of Empires 2.
Yeah.
Because it's World's Edge is like the Microsoft's company, kind of sitting on top of that, working with Relic, and like Shannon Loftus, who used to be, I can't remember what she was, but she came to PAX Oz, and I'm sure we probably all had a chance to speak to her. Maybe they have a lot of like the original team kind of working with Relic and doing all this stuff, and they have like this community that they're leveraging. So like it's one of those games that's taken its sweet time, but I think it's doing everything right, getting to a proper release date, like making, ticking all the boxes, getting everybody really happy about what's going on, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, World's Edge aren't actually like a development studio like traditionally. They worked with like a Melbourne studio for the Tantalus for the Age of Empires 3 remake or remaster. But they seem to be switched on because they're not just, they're kind of like a weird in between where they have, narrative people, producers, and like a big team of community people and stuff like that. And they, with the existing, like, Age of Empires 2, like that is actually still getting new expansions. Like, so they're doing a really cool job. And that's like PC only. It's very, it seems niche. It is huge, but like it is kind of like niche. but like it's got, you know, this huge player base, and they're supporting it in a way that they haven't done, I guess, in almost ever when it comes to Microsoft and PC gaming. They've always kind of like ummed and ahed and kickstarted things and stopped and started, you know, games for Windows and trying to add achievements to Windows initially, and then now it just seems that they're really on track when it comes to PCs support.
The weird thing that I just kind of astounded me is that it seems like nowadays we could just have keyboard and mouse support on an Xbox console and have this game on an Xbox console. And I asked Shannon about that in London in 2019 or in the before times. And it was like, oh, no, yeah, I don't think we're thinking about doing that. It's like, well, like, would it be that difficult right now? Like the way that you've set up, the way that Xbox is right now, would that actually be difficult? It's just weird because like they're missing out on like that many more people who, like, you know, maybe used to play from the CD in their Kellogg's cereal box, but don't have a PC, but have an Xbox sitting around, you know, like if it has keyboard and mouse support.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think that was something I asked, can't remember who it was, like, will you release like just straight keyboard and mouse games on Xbox? I mean, why not? Like, would it be possible? And I think they've discussed it. I just don't think that that's something that they would necessarily do, at least not now. I think with something like Age, like that'll be something where it's like, all right, PC now, and if we're going to bring it to console, yeah, sure, keyboard and mouse support will be there, but you'll just have to wait until we do like that, you know, revamp the UI and add control support and do all those other things.
Flight sim style, perhaps. What was I going to say? Can't remember. Doesn't matter.
I thought you were segueing into flight sim there. Basically, you were.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah,
good,
great.
Perfectly, and then you stopped.
Exactly. Flight sim.
Flight sim, Top Gun expansion and consoles in July. Xbox Series S, X, not Xbox One anymore. I think it used to be
perfect
coming to Xbox.
It was definitely when they announced it. So this is when they announced it like 2017 or something. It was like a big deal that it's coming to Xbox One because it was before Series X, or it was maybe 2018. So yeah, I'm glad they got rid of it because I can't imagine the base Xbox One getting anywhere near running this.
Just running it on PC was hard enough.
Yes.
So that's why I just probably never assumed that it was coming to Xbox, because it's like I like playing the PC version. I was like thinking like, how is this even going to run on the Series X? Obviously, you know, the hardware is capable and stuff, but it was like, you know, you needed a beast of a PC just to scrape through with Flight Simulator on, you know, high detail settings.
Totally.
Which is why I'm excited to get it on Xbox. I can actually play it now, not on like the minimum settings on a Surface Book saying like, do not try to run this. Yeah. It looks great.
The thing that annoys me with that game is that there are achievements for doing like ridiculously long flights. So you basically just put on autopilot and leave your like PC on overnight. But like, unless you turn the settings down and put the window really small, like your PC is going to like blow up by the time you come back to it like 12 hours later. But anyway, that's beside the point. I'm excited to try the Top Gun thing. I'm probably more excited to play with a controller and maybe be able to fly a bit better, because I
was playing with a controller on PC anyway. I played
but I was really bad
on PC with controller, like most games, apart from Doom, I think, and a few RTSs. But like, yeah, like most games, I just play with the controller. It's like, yeah, why not?
So when you were playing on your computer with a controller, which I was too, you still had to like juggle your keyboard.
Yeah,
or was that just
for a couple of things. No, for a couple of things just on the keyboard, and then
I'm hoping that does not happen at all on Xbox, obviously, because I don't want to plug in a keyboard to begin with. But like it should just be a little bit easier, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, well,
they probably just keep crashing.
They found like 80 gigs or something with the install size on PC just when they were optimizing.
How insane is that? It went down to like 50 gig. It used to be 100. Yeah, that's unrelated but really cool news.
Good find.
Yeah.
Something
that I really like playing on my Switch, and because there's cross progression on PC, is Hades, and I hope that extends to Xbox and PlayStation when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation later on. But if not, I don't care. I'll just play Hades again from scratch on my Xbox, because that's neat. And it's on Game Pass? Is it on Game Pass?
Yeah.
It must be on Game Pass.
It is.
Everything is on Game Pass.
It has to be.
Excellent.
That's the rules of being in this showcase. But yeah, that's cool. It'll go to a new bunch of people. I played it on Switch as well, and I think a lot of people would have. But then there's that whole group who just wait for Game Pass now, which is normally me, actually. So I'm surprised I played this already. If it didn't get such fanfare, I probably wouldn't have.
Well, it was our game of the year 2020, so you would have felt that you missed
That's
out.
why.
Yeah, there you go.
It was definitely same as my personal game of the year. So good. And I'm going to play it again. I mean, just to play it again, but also get the bonus achievements there as well.
Well,
I played it on
That's
Steam,
it.
where achievements don't really mean anything. You see like the Steam achievement pop up, you're like,
Garbage.
just interesting, but
And if there is cross progression, you can probably just get some of those pretty quickly straight in. And it's like a free, air quotes, free game if you have a Game Pass subscription. So like, no sweat off your back. Actually, that's what I think that was my segue. I don't really find anything about Psychonauts appealing. Sorry, it's just like it just looks like a weird, quirky game. But like, it's on Game Pass, so like it's coming out in August. There's not a lot from what I can think of coming out around that time. So I'm probably going to try it just because it's really not that difficult for me to try it. So it looks really colorful and weird, and it's one of those not Xbox One games as well, isn't it? I think.
I think
Not
that
sure
may
about
have.
that. Maybe.
We don't do
originally did.
facts here. We just do general assumptions.
Doesn't really matter. Like if it's coming to PC and Xbox, that's it. That's 2 out of 3, or 2 out of 4.
It'll be quirky though. It's classic. It's classic Tim Schafer, so it's gonna be weird, but it still looks fun, and it looks that different kind of game, like playing Ratchet and Clank now. That's the type of thing that Xbox doesn't have. They had Super Lucky's Tale briefly, but that kind of cutesy, platformy, family-friendly, but weird type of game is what the whole is. It's kind of why I want them to bring back Banjo, but they probably don't need to now because they have this there for this year. It will be weird though. I've tried to play the original because it's backwards compatible now, and it's just too old. It's that level of like, oh, this is from when you only had one control stick, and then the second one does something else. It's like, I can't get my head around it.
Was that the original Xbox?
Yeah.
Or was it 360?
Yeah, so it's the original Xbox on Xbox Series X, like upscaled to 4K. So it kind of looks weird because it's like not bland in some spots, and then other spots are like really textured. Like, this is weird. But yeah, I just found it broke my brain because it didn't control like a current game should.
It was on sale for $12 like a couple months ago, and I'm like, I'll try it. And now it's on Game Pass. So like, let that be a lesson to you. I did. I bought it and I downloaded it, and I haven't even tried it. And now it's free on Game Pass. Like, oh, come on.
Well,
but I will try before August. Damn it! Can I get my $12 back? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't have achievements, so you will not try it. Don't pretend.
Give me a break. Good segue, Ben. Grounded's getting achievements, even though it's still going to stay in early access. It's getting achievements, which is weird. That shouldn't. I thought that was a thing that wasn't a thing.
Here's what I think. They want people like you to play it. No one's playing it because there's no achievements yet. I'm waiting to play it until the achievements come on. Now that they are, I guess I'll try it. Basically, there's achievements. You can sit down, you can get a pet, and there's a giant spider boss. That was like their whole trailer.
There's a giant spider that you can make less
a blob.
Spider.
I will do that. I still have nightmares about those spiders in Ocarina of Time from when I was a kid. Like, terrifying.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
like 8 years old at the time.
I don't like spiders, but I don't mind video game spiders. But like the original Resident Evil spiders were not scary. But then when they made them like look like actual spiders in the GameCube remaster, like with the hair and everything, no, can't do it. Hate it. Just run through that section like as quickly as I possibly can, trying not to look at the screen.
It's almost every game has spider enemies. Like,
so kudos to having a spider.
Actually, the ones in Grounded were creepy. I played it when it first dropped the early access, but there wasn't really much there, so I don't even know how much they've really added. It was kind of cool, but it was kind of like pretty much standard survival. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Ark survival. Collect things, build your grass hut with your leaves and stairs, and then go out and collect more, and then come back and build more. And it was fun, but there really wasn't a lot more to it, or enough to it.
It seems like it would be fun with like your friends mucking about, but like I'm not creative enough or patient enough solo to enjoy that game on my own, I guess. And it's difficult to do on your own because you're supposed to team up with people and do stuff. But anyway, I don't know if is there anything else looking at the list from Microsoft or Bethesda apart from the last thing, obviously, that you want to talk about before we do one last thing on Microsoft? I'm not talking about the fridge. I'm talking about the other thing, not the fridge. The fridge is not the last thing. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
It was their last thing. The same as yesterday. I haven't played the first Plague Tale, but seeing that there's now a sequel, which is a prequel, I think, has made me go download the first one. I'm going to go play it. So the same thing that happened with Rabbids with me yesterday, or whenever Ubisoft was like, oh yeah, I forgot to play the first one. I should go do that. So that's for me.
Me, it's they acquired a couple of studios, didn't they? Like, or they
They
didn't.
didn't
Like,
announce them.
They didn't
because
announce
didn't that
It
what
was
was
a
that,
rumor.
that Avalanche game that
Contraband.
Contraband? Yeah, that was
Yeah,
presented
yeah.
as an Xbox Game Studios game.
Oh, okay. There was a
Yeah.
rumor that they were gonna announce acquiring 3 new studios, and I think
Yeah.
Avalanche was one of them, but they didn't actually announce it. So, which makes sense because it wasn't really the time. This was the Games showcase. So
Yeah, I
maybe
think
that will
they
come
have.
later in the week.
I think Avalanche is like stealthily now an Xbox Game Studio, and also as well, I think maybe
Asobo?
Asobo as well, because they do
Yeah.
flight sim,
Yeah,
and they're
they
doing
do
Plague
flight
Tale
sim.
too. But though Plague Tale had Focus Home listed, which is throws a spanner into that theory.
And it is definitely confirmed for Switch and PlayStation as well. A Plague Tale.
Oh, okay.
Requiem
Yeah.
is what it's called.
The other rumor was Crytek, which I'm not sure why they would do that, but they've already got so many engines now buying Bethesda.
We're doing a video podcast. I can't make faces like that. Sorry, Crytek. If this was like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, that'd be cool. But like, not now. Sorry, Crytek.
Yeah, they got idTech, so
yeah.
it's
But
case
they've got so
closed.
much money to throw around. Apparently, they could probably get them cheap.
Now, I alluded to Microsoft's proper one last thing. That fridge, though. Actually, can we talk about that fridge for a second? Why? Like, what is it going to be like the Pride controllers? Right. Is it going to be like the Pride controllers that it's like this is this super inclusive month that like everybody changes their logos to a rainbow one, and we're all about like everybody being welcome, but we're going to give like 10 controllers to like a handful of influencers. Like, what are you doing? Like, is that what this fridge is? Is it going to be like Snoop Dogg gets a mini fridge and you're going to see it on his Twitter like in December, or is it going to be like click here to go to the Xbox Gear Shop and spend $600 on a fridge instead of a console that you may or may not be able to get? Why is this a thing? It's cool. No, it's not even cool. Why is this a thing?
Because it was a
Steve, you say
thing.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not getting a fridge.
And you're talking yourself out of.
Yeah.
You're holding a beer right now. You're going to have a fridge right behind you. I guarantee you, our Game of the Year podcast, you're going to be getting your beer out of your Xbox fridge that you got for some promotion, and you're going to backtrack on this about how great it is.
Well,
yeah, you wouldn't say no. Like
me and Snoop Dogg
that Snoop Dogg got one.
Well, yeah,
sounds like you just want one.
Snoop Dogg. Well,
yeah, you wouldn't say no. I would it's Xbox
I wouldn't say
sure.
No.
Yeah,
but I hope they sell them if people really want one, because that was the first. It was like the same thing with these limited edition controllers. Like everybody and their dog wants one. I guess that's why they're limited edition, to try to like drive their
I get that
desire, but also just let people get
sense.
one if they want it.
Isn't that like the whole point of showing support and things like that? Just make it available.
I would think so. Anyway, back to the one last thing, which I guess I alluded to it before. Arcane Austin is making a game for Xbox exclusively. Like, take that, Deathloop. And was it just me, or did the music at the start didn't they use that same music in Deathloop when they were announcing Deathloop at some point, or did I just completely make that up? It sounded super similar, and I'm like, what? Why are they showing Deathloop? That doesn't make sense.
The art style is like has Deathloop elements to it, like that sort of like animated, retro vibe. Whereas this one seems to be a bit more 80s-ish versus Deathloop's 60s, 70s. But it has that sort of like tone, like really stylish retro vibe to it. But the weird thing is that it's apparently out like summer, winter next year, which is mid next year. And
it is called Redfall, by the way. So I just got on a tangent.
They didn't show gameplay, but they showed a chunky cinematic that basically showed how the game is going to play. Because then the follow-up article like basically just outlined like, this is what you can do. But I'm pretty keen for it. Like, I would have loved to have seen it like in action. I think that would have just been the thing that would be like that 1-2 punch of like Forza Horizon 5 and Redfall, if it was at the stage where they could show it at that sort of like quality. Because Arcane's the same studio that made Prey. I think Prey is like one of the most underrated games from the Xbox One generation, for sure.
Absolutely. It was such a good game. And it has all the neat things, like like the cool world. It's where is it? Redfall, Massachusetts. Is that right? I don't know. It's like an
Yeah,
island.
Could be.
Yep.
It's an island that vampires have taken over and like perpetually made dark. But then like at the end of the CG trailer, the sun came back out and I don't know. Like, so I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little bit confused by this whole setup. I guess it has
Also,
to be.
it's not zombies as well. So
Yeah.
like, you know,
That was
celebrate
exciting.
because like imagine like, I mean, Back 4 Blood is kind of like, I mean, it's the Left 4 Dead spiritual successor. It's coming to Game Pass too, which is cool. But like, I don't think we can handle any more zombie games this year.
No,
Apart from that,
we couldn't have
There's zombies
2
in
4-player
Watch
zombie
Dogs.
game shooters.
Yeah.
There's zombies in Watch Dogs.
Um,
There's zombies in Extraction. There's
Oh, yeah,
Deadites who are
Extraction.
like zombies in Evil Dead the game. Like, yeah,
There's too many. Yeah, it's a smart move. Arcane know what they're doing. Just on that
yeah.
choice alone is like, all right, they've got it.
Ben, Redfall.
Well, you pretty much summarized it all up. I'm glad they said in their press release after, like, yeah, it's a 4-player co-op game, grab 3 mates, but you can play it solo as well. Like, it's made to be played like that, because when you see a Back 4 Blood, it's very much the Left 4 Dead. You really need to play with your mates to make it fun or useful. So we'll see if that actually works out like that. Again, we didn't really see any real gameplay, but they had a nice tone. And even that, this is probably why they didn't show State of Decay 3, because they're overloaded with zombies at the moment. Still a similar vibe. You're shooting stuff, which is kind of that undead style thing, but at least it's somewhat different and very calculated for Xbox to start with Bethesda and end with Bethesda. So they were clear to say, this is why we spent $7 billion. We've got 2 games. And yeah, it just shows the future of them. And they're both coming out next year. So things are happening, even though I think we probably assumed Arcane was done for a while, because they've got Deathloop coming out in a few months. I didn't see them having another game ready to go so quickly.
No, I think they've got, like, from my understanding, like 3 teams now. So they've got this Austin team who did Prey.
Yeah.
They've got the Lyon team that did
Dishonored
1 and 2. Yeah. But apparently they've got like in France, they've got like multiple teams. So like the Deathloop team is, I think, separate from what I understand. And also there was a smaller offshoot that did the Wolfenstein Youngblood as well. So I think that like the Dishonored, like a bunch of those people are actually making something else as well. Like there's a 3rd Arcane game, which is cool. But also we didn't see Wolfenstein. I was surprised. I thought maybe we'd get like a Wolfenstein 3.
We didn't.
And, actually, when we saw Contraband, I thought that was Wolfenstein for a second. I'm like, what?
Yeah. That's the cool thing. Like, I think this press conference was amazing. And yes, there was some stuff in 2022, but like it wasn't the like, this is in 17 years, like this is Elder Scrolls 6. If they showed Elder Scrolls 6, I was gonna like flip a table, because like that's not coming forever. I like that it was pretty like immediate, things coming out pretty quickly. It was the good stuff. It was showing what they were doing with Bethesda. And like Ben kind of said before, there was no Avowed, there was no Fable, there's no Forza Motorsport, there was no Wolfenstein. There was like, this is a very small slice of what Microsoft has been working towards for years now, and just getting like shat upon for years now. Where are our first party games? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you acquiring? Like, it's starting to happen, and it's still early on in the whole the grand scheme of things. So I'm like super duper excited, and I haven't been this excited at an Xbox press conference for a while, and this is like, I think next year is going to be better. I think next year 2023 is going to be like even better. So it's exciting.
That's what we say every year about Xbox, but this year they did get better than last year. So finally they moved along. And the big thing that I haven't seen many people talk about really is so a couple of days ago in their briefing, they kind of said, we want to do a new first party game every quarter. So 4 games a year, essentially, at least at that AAA level. And you kind of think that's not enough to keep people subscribing to Game Pass. Like, people want new games launching in there. Having old stuff come in and out is only going to get you so far. And they kind of showed today, we've got a bunch of third parties willing to launch their game in there, which is what keeps people subscribed. So that's the big part of their strategy, which they needed to get right. And they seem to be moving that way.
They like perpetually one step ahead. So it's like, 1 game every quarter. That doesn't sound like enough. It's like, wait, don't you know what we're doing? Yeah. Did you see us when we added EA and Outriders? We're doing third party games. We're doing this stuff. Like, we're doing all of that stuff on top of having 20x amount of studios all working on original games. And you're right too, Steve. Like just the amount of stuff that they showed here compared to like what they didn't even have to show, or like Perfect Dark, this and that, is almost feels like. And what makes it so exciting is that fact that like it's just like it's only going to get more and more. Like it may actually get too much. You maybe say like, all right, you're going to need 2 or 3 of these presentations, is because you've got too many of these first party games in development. And that may sound like an exaggeration, but I think that's going to happen at this rate. Like if you got this much to show, like, I mean, they showed a lot. if this is how much you're showing, you're going to need to like pump the brakes and like, split this up.
They didn't call it Xbox E3
Yeah.
2021. They called it Xbox and Bethesda. So it quite realistically, next year they could split them back up again into 2.
Yeah.
Maybe like, because it Game Pass though. So like, I don't know how you do that actually, because it gets tricky, but they almost could. But going back to what you were saying, Ben, before, just quickly, like, yes, they're having all these third-party games come out to pad out Game Pass, but they almost, like, I'm glad that they do, but they don't need to, because when you hear that there's a new Plague Tale game coming in a couple months, you go and download the old Plague Tale game, or you go and download Fallout 3 and 4 because you're excited for Starfield. Like, they just have so many games in their own library that surely people, like, I haven't played half these games either. Like, there's and it's free, and you can try it. And especially if you can cloud stream it or something and not even have to download it. Like it's no skin off your back. Like, I'll just go try that. I hate it. Bounce off it. Try something else. It's great. It's great. Which is exciting. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Anything else from Microsoft before we talk about one Square Enix game? I don't think we have enough time for one Square Enix game, which we're talking about right now.
There was one big one.
Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a single player, no DLC, no microtransaction game by Eidos Montreal, who did Deus Ex, and they did Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and there's another game that I'm wanting to say, but I can't remember what it is.
Something. They did Deus Ex.
They did Deus Ex is enough. Yeah. Single player narrative focused titles, and that's what they want to do with Guardians. You're controlling the 5 Guardians of the Galaxy, but you're always playing as Peter Quill, who is Star-Lord, and you can like tap into your teammates' abilities. In combat, there's a lot of humor. They're leaning on a giant, well, not a giant, I think they said 30 songs, 80s soundtrack that is narratively woven into the story. There's in combat the notion of a huddle. So Peter will call people into a huddle in the middle of a fight and give them like an inspirational speech, but like using song lyrics. And then it either works or it doesn't, but Mary DeMarle, the narrative director, told me like Peter always inspires himself, so don't worry about that. It's like maybe he inspires the rest of the team, which I thought was really funny. And then when you come out of the huddle, it'll like play like Bad Reputation or The Final Countdown or like just crazy 80s songs. And there's conversations that you can like make decisions in, which sort of impact the game, but not in any like giant way. Eidos has said the game is it's linear. There's some like kind of branching story paths, but they all kind of weave back into like a final single ending. Like everything about this is just not what Avengers was, I guess, and that's why I'm really excited for it. But I don't know what you guys think.
I think that's the main thing.
That's exactly it. This is what Avengers should be, right? Like this is what they made Avengers look like when they showed it at E3, and then they kind of showed the second part of that, which was its games of a service. And I tried to play it as a solo single player campaign game because I felt like that's what it should be, and it really fought against me playing like that. It's kind of like this is not what we want. Buy the microtransactions.
Yeah. I bounced off Avengers so quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then like they had like a video for the expansion for Black Panther, and they made it seem like it was like a single player narrative focused story. It's not. It's still part of this giant game as a service. Sorry, Kosta.
I was just going to say, like, this has obviously been in development for a while. So like both of these games were like in development, but like this kind of has to say, that we're not Avengers, which is like, a shame because Avengers just has that reputation as being somewhat of a missed opportunity, which is a fancy word for flop.
You could very much tell Square Enix was very mindful of how it was presented ahead of E3, and they were very concerned about reactions to it after they had shown it. Like it's a completely different beast, which is good, I think. And I like it's weird because I wasn't doubting what Crystal Dynamics could do because I really like Crystal Dynamics, but
same.
I think as much as they were admitting that they know exactly what's going on with Avengers, they were trying to kind of distance themselves, like they were doing backflips to try to kind of keep away from it. Like, but also like I think it's what they're not saying that also needs to be taken into account. Like you look at these characters and they don't look like the comic book versions exactly, and they don't exactly look like the MCU versions. They look kind of like a hybrid.
But that was the problem with Avengers, wasn't it? Because it's like outside of how it played, there's that whole uncanny valley of hey, this looks movie grade, but it's not the movies we know.
That's not Chris Hemsworth, and that's not the other Chris.
And it's like this is whatever. Not Chris Pratt, and that's not the same. I mean, it kind of looks like the same raccoon, and it kind of sounds like Bradley Cooper too. I think that's why Rocket Raccoon like came across pretty well in the trailer, because like it can look. I mean, how else is he gonna look? And he's such a fun character that you can't mess that up.
And they said it was like, that's that they just kind of came up with this design. But I think that they were very mindful of what had happened with Avengers. And like, yes, the 80s soundtrack is very integral to the comics, but also like that's what made the movie like its own thing and like set it apart from the rest of the MCU. And that's what it became known for. And that like it's the same thing here. So like I think without saying that they're making sure to kind of make some course corrections when they're doing a Marvel game now at Square Enix. I think they have. And I'm for it because it looks cool.
I think they made it clearer than pretty much every other game. I haven't seen too many presentations when they've kind of said like, guys, it's single player. We promise you this is a single player, no microtransactions. We haven't ruined this one. It's basically what they said. Like, as you say, Kosta, this would have been in development for a while alongside Avengers, but they've clearly course corrected somewhere, or maybe they were on the right course for this one to begin with, and they wanted to make it very clear that we haven't made that same, not mistake, but yeah, we haven't done what you guys all hated.
Yeah, and having no DLC or microtransactions is like one step further than, I mean, what it could very well still be in terms of like, you look at Assassin's Creed that has microtransactions for like, cool gear and stuff like that. This is still described as an RPG or an action RPG mechanics, or in some respect. So there must be skill trees and there might be gear and stuff like that. So they could very easily just do DLC. And you're probably right. The course correction may have been to remove that side of the experience, just to create as much distance as possible, just for how it plays or how it's perceived to play versus Avengers.
I think the RPG elements are from like gear and crafting, and each character has 4 abilities that were like, you have 3 abilities straight off the bat, and like the 4th ability for each person unlocks as part of story progression, from what I understand. But like Avengers has left such a bad taste in my mouth that when they came like fully out and like no DLC, no microtransactions, like I saw basically the same thing that was played this morning. And at the end of like the big sting, there was, like pre-order now for like the original comic book Guardian outfit set, and get the deluxe edition for like 2 extra Peter Quill costumes. I'm like, okay, if I don't do either of those things, can I still get those costumes? And if so, what do they cost me? And they're like, no, you can get them. You can just earn them in game by just earning them without any cost. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that I had to ask that. I feel kind of bad. But also I had to double check because
but no real game does that anymore.
Like Avengers,
like, things in game. Like how's
one of the MCU costumes? You got to pay for them now. Like, oh god. So yeah, like, and I'm glad. Like I was like, oh, please don't say that I'm gonna. It's not DLC. It's not a microtransaction, but it's like a slightly extra purchase to get these things if you didn't get them with the deluxe edition. No, just earn them. Good, perfect. I think they're gonna bend over backwards to not be Avengers, and that's good. Very good. Anything else you guys want to talk about at all before I let you go back to your days? I don't know if I'm debating if I'm having a nap or if I'm just going to try to ride it out till tonight. It's like 3:00 in the afternoon and I feel like it's midnight.
Yeah, best just ride it out.
Yeah, probably. I don't think so. There wasn't much else. There was Sea of Thieves is trying to reboot with a Disney connection, which again is the same thing. But I suppose it's so stylized that the uncanny valley of it's not quite the right actor doesn't really matter because it's so different anyway. I noticed they didn't say like starring Johnny Depp, so I assume it's just some voice alike.
It sounded like him though.
Oh, it'll be the guy they got to do like Disney Infinity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably.
Like they get Tom Hanks's brother or something to be Tom Hanks in
Yeah.
things. You know what I mean? Yeah, like
John Hanks.
this is Tommy Depp.
I love Sea of Thieves, so that one kind of disappointed me, just in the sense that it dilutes the world by just tacking on Disney Pirates of the Caribbean, crap really into it. Which is, because the Sea of Thieves can stand on its own. I mean, I understand like why it's a crossover thing. Although I don't even know what it is. Is it like a standalone game?
It's I wrote about it like 2 hours ago. It's like like Sea Tales. What are those things called?
Oh yeah, the single player adventure
Like
stuff that they did.
expeditions and things.
Yeah.
Like it's a collection of like bits and bobs that make this overarching story.
Oh, okay.
And hopefully that made sense, because I haven't played Sea of Thieves probably since it came out, because I'm like, this is great, but it's one of those things where you need like a crew. I went solo sailing for a while and just got bored.
Yeah.
Ben, why don't you go sailing with me? I don't want you to go sailing with me.
I'll think about it. No, you don't. You're going to play that anyway. You've already got the achievements. You're done with it. Let's not pretend.
Do I have the achievements? I don't know if I do. The Ascent looked really cool. Somerville looked really cool. Atomic Heart looked really cool. Like everything that they showed, there was nothing that I was like, ugh, I don't care about that. Whereas like an Ubisoft, as an example, it was a lot like that. And like the Square Enix, the Final Fantasy Origins, where I'm going to find chaos and I am going to hunt chaos down and murder chaos, and chaos cannot be like, okay, I don't care about this either. There was nothing at Microsoft that I wouldn't have a crack at. Just cool.
The Square Enix conference kind of felt like it was made by the American team. So they were like, here's Guardians of the Galaxy that we know about. And then like someone had given them the info on all the Japanese developed games, and they were just like, we don't really understand these. We're going to jam them together in a real quickly. It was weird how they're presented so differently.
Did you hear what happened with that demo as well for the Chaos game? I need to get Chaos.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a PS5 demo. It comes out on like every platform ever, but it's a PS5 exclusive demo, and whoever uploaded it to like PlayStation servers like uploaded a corrupted copy or something. I don't know. That's not confirmed, but what is confirmed is that it's like corrupt. You download it and it won't play. So it's bringing chaos into the world so they can hunt it down and kill chaos. Kosta, is there anything from like it can just be something from what we talked about already, but is there anything from E3 that you just are super duper impressed by, like an Ubisoft game or a future gaming or a PC?
Horizon 5.
Nice.
It just it just looks insanely good. I mean, and everything else, and probably Battlefield, like those two I just want to play. And those two are coming out this year. Like, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. It's just so much. There was so much in the Xbox and Bethesda presentation that I'm now just, confused. What's going on? Where am I?
It was so different to yesterday, because like the Ubisoft one was here's 2 games. One of them was already leaked that we're announcing, and here's a bunch of games we've already told you about. It was so flat afterwards. And so to have so many things so quick that it's the whole opposite. Like we thought after yesterday, temper your expectations. Like they're going to be hit by COVID. They're not going to have much to show. Not at all. They have heaps of stuff coming out. So I suppose the last one is Nintendo. Like which way are they going? Are they going to do a Ubisoft and have nothing available, a couple more ports upscaled, or are they going to have some actual games ready?
When it comes to Nintendo, always temper your expectations. Anybody that has known Nintendo for more than a single console generation knows not to get your hopes up, but yet still gets their hopes up.
Nintendo is very happy about the Chaos presentation, and also very happy about the Gearbox presentation from yesterday. That like that's on the whole, the bar is very low this year. It's not really hard to win people over, because it's been pretty lackluster. I'm glad Microsoft and Bethesda, Xbox and Bethesda, hit it out of the park.
Didn't fumble like everybody else.
Yeah.
I also like low-key like that Sony's just kind of like on Twitter being like, hey, Ratchet and Clank's out. Also, there's UFC. Nothing else is happening this weekend, right? Cool. Have a good one. See ya. Bye. Kosta, how do we find you? Of course, we go to AusGamers to read everything that you write.
AusGamers.
How else do we find you?
Twitter, Toadovsky, which is spelled Toad and then OVSKY, and that's pretty much it.
Nice. Thank you for joining us.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure.
Kick Steve Farrelly in the shin. Like, well, I guess you won't see him anytime. Well, we're not in lockdown. Maybe you will see him sometime soon. But whenever you see him, just kick him in the shin. He was supposed to be here, and I think he slept in. So I'm just going to call him out and make him feel foolish.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, but it was good talking to you for the full hour anyway. So yay! Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us your time on this very long day. And we're almost done, guys, because we only have like basically Nintendo to go. Not even tomorrow. It's Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So there's a break.
Capcom's tomorrow at 7:30, but it's supposed to be like village updates and stuff. So that's good at least.
Yeah. You're almost done, and you don't have to fly back to Australia from LA. Like, you're already here. So there's a bonus to all of this.
I guess.
Yeah.
Ben, how do we find you on the internets? In case people forget after listening to you yesterday, where you've told them how to find you.
After yesterday, yeah. And the next one, it's always the same. Ben_Salter on Twitter. That's me. Thanks for joining us, gents. It's been very exciting to talk about a conference that we actually all liked.
Yeah. And
it brought the E3 hype.
Yeah.
That we all crave.
That was so kind of you. Between this episode and the one that we talked about, Ubisoft, there's like a 15-minute interview with Eidos Montreal if you want to hear more about Guardians of the Galaxy in this podcast feed. Anyway, Kosta, thank you again for joining us. Go to AusGamers. Australian websites are awesome. I have run out of hype machine though for today. I'm going to go have a nap, I think.